Well, welcome. Sean, did you want to say anything before we get this party started?
Oh yeah, sorry, I'm keep pinning people.
I know I've been picking people too. You know, I come to
Excellent.
all of these for my friends in here. I don't ask for anything. You know, I support everybody. I support. And then I go, come on, this is my first interview, guys. Okay, so I'm going to apologize firsthand. But this is my first exciting interview with such amazing guests. And where's my friends at, man? They're not going to live it up.
Come on, let's bring people up. They can come and sit in the audience as well.
Yay!
Yeah, sorry, I'm not a moderator, so please bring the people up. Yes, guys. First and foremost, hello. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you guys are. I'm Sean Alimov. I'm the founder of the three largest clubs on this platform. I'm also program director for Connect.Club. So delighted to be part of this exciting panel. I've actually tried to connect to all of you guys. If you tap on my avatar, next to my avatar, there is a connect button. Let's all connect together. Yeah. So, yeah, our journey started 5 years ago. For those who don't know, it took us 5 years to get where we are right now. We definitely disrupting the whole social networking environment by introducing something very immersive. It's video and audio social networking platform. It's definitely going to disrupt how people interact with the content, how they interact with the community on the internet. So this is two pence about us. Thank you.
Yay! And you're awesome. And you work so hard.
Thanks. Thank you.
I just what I'd like to do is I'd like to go around watch a little bit of these, but can you please, we're going to go around and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you remarkable gentlemen are. So would you like to start with you, Derek, then Ben, then Raphael? Raphael, sorry.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Derek Hoyam. I'm a artist manager and UX designer and a product strategist. So I kind of have two sides to what I do. So I've had a company, well, my long-term story is I was a Microsoft old-timer, helped create the start button for Microsoft and Microsoft Windows, part of that whole thing. So if you go to my LinkedIn profile, click there, I have on my links, I have a podcast episode where we detail the entire history of the start button. So if you want to know more about that, we have the untold secret history of the start button. So you can listen to that episode. And so after about a dozen years at Microsoft, I left. I started getting into digital recording, which was new at the time, and started funding different music artists from around the Seattle area, one of which was Alan Stone, who just was appearing on the American Songwriting Contest this week.
Nice.
I've also funded dozens of artists, including Mr. Talkbox, who was this signature sound of 24K Magic with Bruno Mars and won 5 Grammys. And then Jeremy Rosado, who's recently been on The Voice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So many people. So I've been deep in music world forever. So that's kind of one side of my life. And then the other side of my life is continuing designing products for Fortune 500 companies and advising people and C-suite execs on product strategy and that kind of thing. So I'm intimately familiar with, user interface design, user experience design. I also teach it at the university level. And I also teach music and media at the university level.
Wow.
I can't follow that up.
I'm going back to the audience.
Let's go.
I'm going back to the audience.
You can do it. Let's go, Ben. You're awesome. Let's go.
So my name is Ben. I go by B. Earl. I am one half of Skyview Way Studios with my partner Taboo. So speaking about music, I've been involved in the music space for a long time. One of my first big comic book projects was with Black Eyed Peas. called Masters of the Sun that Marvel put out. It was a multimedia experience. We did a VR, we did AR. And, you know, there was an album with it, Masters of the Sun album that Black Eyed Peas put out. After that, Taboo and I linked up and we started a company focusing on what we call mythology through music. We have a project set up with Cartoon Network. We have several projects with Gaumont, the film company and studio, does like Narcos and a bunch of different stuff. They've been around forever. You know, we're writing with Marvel, been working with Marvel for several years now, which has been awesome. I'm working on my issue 2 of Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man. So it's pretty cool to be given the keys to that character in the Marvel universe. And, you know, I mean, I don't want to get into the depth and detail of my creative career here in 20 years of Hollywood, but I've been deeply connected to community building. I've built the longest running comic book, film, animation, gaming community here in LA. I'm actually relaunching it again because I see a need for the connection into the tech side. I had done some kind of creative tech parties as well, events called Controlled Chaos back in 2018. We actually were giving NFTs away to all of our people who came. We had a cryptocurrency we launched. At one point, it had $1.6 billion of this Controlled Chaos in my wallet. Couldn't do anything with it. It just looked cool. But for us, it was that experiment of just, you know, sending it to friends and watching them see their wallet actually gain some sort of USD currency value, even though they couldn't do anything with it. It just looked cool. But you know, I've always kind of sat between tech and entertainment. I first started out as a film editor when I was like 19 and working with a tech company in Web 1, doing a lot of compression and decompression stuff, focusing on streaming and working with them very closely on the tech side. And it's always kind of been part of my DNA to be a film editor these days. You also have to be pretty good with computers and understanding the Unity systems and things like that on Avid and Final Cut and Premiere, and know the ins and outs of structure and data structure and assets. So, you know, I always kind of looked at everything as asset management. And I think that was kind of a vision I always held to, you know, the creative side, what I do. And most recently, I've been very heavily involved, you know, kind of taking all the experience and understanding of playing with NFTs and with, you know, kind of cryptocurrency. And we launched minted a project back in November called the Chihuahuas. Just been having a lot of fun with it. It's a silly, irreverent group of alien dogs. So we're having a lot of fun with that. And, you know, just been working on a lot of these different projects, developing a couple of things in stealth, working with some AI tech, developing a, you know, component company in that space. Again, that's sort of a stealth mode thing, but everything always has an entertainment connective tissue to it. And Taboo and I are working a project with David Vonner, who's a toy designer, called Angry Foot. We are working with Sideshow Collectibles. And working with Sideshow, Greg, the owner of Sideshow, and helping Sideshow onboard into this sort of Web 2.5 bridge idea into what we're going with, you know, the idea of Web 3. So I'm very focused on physical and digital and understanding how these can bridge together. And, you know, this idea of metaverse, we are not even close to anything like that. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions around it. And, you know, I got an opportunity to be interviewed by Business Insider and spoke very much about there is no metaverse. It's a lot of walled gardens right now. But anyway, I'm going to pass the mic to Raphael because I think that's a great segue because I know he speaks a lot about that. So you
killed it. You killed it.
Thank you.
High five. You did good. Hi, Raphael. Welcome.
Hey there.
So excited for you to be here as well.
Excellent. All right. So I've been developing games for 25 years now. I've started back in the mid-90s. I guess on a very basic level, my areas are games, XR, AI, and cloud. I currently run my own company, Symbol Zero. I have another company, a cloud platform company that's in stealth that we're raising money for. Over the years, I have built games for, Electronic Arts, Activision, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, Take-Two Interactive, and a bunch of others. So things like iterations of Mass Effect, Tony Hawk, Mafia, True Crime, Thief, back and forth. My area is virtual worlds. I've been building virtual worlds since the start, since we could make them in 3D. And I think I'm going to try to be the pragmatist on here, because I think that the biggest lesson that we can take is the lesson that we've tried to understand over in the XR space, which is, one, you don't co-opt other people's areas. You're respectful of those areas. There's a lot of early precursor work that's being done. I've seen VR from when Palmer Lucky's first prototype was one of 12 that was sitting on my old boss John Carmack's desk at ID, where John was going, I kind of like this one. I think I'll work with this kid. That was 11 years ago, and that was part of that early wave. But it was at a point where John was reaching out to Sony and Samsung and Valve and others and going, the potential is here, and he knew that it was far away. We took that into the XR community, the VR and AR and MR community, and we learned from folks like Qualcomm that you can have a notion which is both a container term that allows you to build community and say, the thing that we want to get to, the vision is not here yet, but we have excited people and we have years or decades of work, and we can work towards that. And so I've been building towards Metaverse for 25 years. We talked about it 25, 26 years ago. Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash was 1992. We're halfway there. There's a lot of work to be done. There is no metaverse now, other than in people's sort of bullshit fantasies where they go, the peak internet that we have now and a misunderstanding of technology is a thing that we can just call anything that we want to. I like to deal in practicalities and specifics and a notion that we can track a thing and go, this thing exists now because exactly what? When did the metaverse appear? It's not here yet. When did the term first appear? How do you define it? What technologies are needed to get to there? And so for me, it's things like sitting down and going, okay, Intel says the thing that I want to build to will take about 30 years to get to. Great, I'm halfway there. I'm ready for the rest of the journey. So the point, and this is what we learned with XR, is you go, we don't have XR glasses yet. They're going to take a while. We're going to do some VR stuff, then some AR, then some MR, and then we'll get to XR and maybe hyper reality, and then the metaverse. And it's all a good journey, but don't pretend that what we have now is the thing that we want to get to. The thing that we have now is community, and that's a lot of good work. And it's hard work, but it's necessary work. So let's get to the good thing, but let's not delude ourselves that the work is hard along the way.
That's good stuff, Raphael.
Love it.
That was I wish I could, like, well, just out of curiosity, is this recorded? Because I would totally take that segment and like pass it along to a lot of other people, because you're right, in this world, you hear just this language alone kind of messes with your head. You don't even know what it is. So you're like, oh, metaverse. And then you might meet somebody that said, well, we've been living in a metaverse for a long time. We've already been living here. That's a dialogue that happens every day in rooms and in arenas and Twitter spaces that I'm in. That dialogue exists. But it's so nice to say, it's not here yet. We're building it. It's not here.
Well, it's also good to ask why people are saying that.
Yeah, why?
And part of why people are saying that is a feeling of people are discovering peak internet and people are discovering games and a variety of other technologies around them that mostly run on cloud, and they're often mislabeling it as web. But people are living through a pandemic. They're going online more than they ever had before. And people are like, hey, I just discovered Zoom. And I'm like, great, welcome to the club. I was using Zoom in 2015 and it was useful back then. And back then I was like, it's slightly better than WebEx and it's not as good as Blue Jeans. And there are about 5 other apps that are better than it. And Google has 5 different apps of their own. The point is, like, we're discovering the internet, but some people are talking about it. People are talking about the metaverse almost like if you roll back like 20 years, there would be senators talking about the information superhighway. And there's a silliness there. If you go like, no, like we have the internet. We're trying to make the internet better. If you're talking about the information superhighway, you don't actually understand what we have or what we're getting to. So there are people who are desperate and they're like, we need to get to better. And there's some existential fear about, like, does economy change? But the reality is that we need time for this stuff to work out. And keep in mind, we're also living through a bubble. There is a bubble. And in fact, there was a bubble around ICOs back in 2017 to 2018. I had a good friend of mine who's more active in the NFT space than I am in terms of pushing NFTs, basically tell me, you know, she told me, there's a bubble around NFTs, there's a bubble around Metaverse, there's a bubble around Web3, and there's a bubble around DeFi. And eventually all these bubbles will burst, and then we'll pick up the pieces and go on. And a lot of people will lose money, and we'll figure out what we have for real after the bubbles burst.
Well, yeah, I mean, Raphael, we were in that bubble back when we were building a project, and that, you know, it was an ICO that we were putting together with Millennium Films. And we kind of caught the tail end of the bubble. And we were trying, and that was when I started saying, okay, we need to throw parties connecting people so there's more understanding and information. There needs to be real life conversations happening and bringing people together so that they can experiment with this and understand how it works, as opposed to, oh my God, magic money and everyone's making all this money, and watching, you know, Grammatic, the DJ, all of a sudden make all this money with his ICO. And, you know, we were building a big property around a Millennium Films IP called Undisputed. And we were looking to build just a giant gaming world. And this was in 2017. And this was in the protocol of the NFT came around. And we saw that and we started going around. I was at Comic-Con in 2018 with a backpack full of materials and an AR app that we had built over in the studio in Bulgaria of a fighting game. And we said, we're going to turn these characters into NFTs. You will own them. Everyone at Comic-Con was at the Wired Cafe. Everyone's looking at me like I had 5 heads, you know, and it's great now these conversations are happening, but having been through that ICO bubble, having, you know, been in all these rooms at Warner Brothers and everything with our projects, and me still being the one saying, NFTs, we can use these as collectible things. They are not digital assets. They are active pointers to blockchain ownership that is non-fungible. And so that people can understand, you know, really what it is. And I think there's, again, it's this, if you don't understand it, there's the mystery around it. And then there's this magic and the frothiness of it all. And the word metaverse, like I said, Neil Stevenson, I mean, you know, I'm a sci-fi nerd. I mean, this is the stuff, you know, like Neuromancer and all this stuff, cyber, you know, Shadowrun. I don't know if you're a gamer in that space, Raphael, or anyone, but like, this is the stuff we were playing in pencil and paper, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's an interesting time, but I think we just all have to curb our enthusiasm.
Yeah, there's a lot of plumbing to be built. So I agree with Raphael. Like, there's a lot of, like, I agree we're in bubbles, like, all over the place. And definitely in the NFT bubble, you know, that any you know, 18-year-old can draw pictures that look like, you know, 8-bit characters and publish them and, you know, raise thousands of dollars. It's a crazy notion, but at the same time, like, there's important infrastructure that's being made, and we're seeing this now with like the amount of like fraud and things that are happening, because that's going to have to be prevented, right? It's going to have to be a safe marketplace where real creators can earn money, and buyers and consumers can trust that, like, hey, when I buy this thing, it's a real thing. It's not going away. And then the other thing too is just marketplaces, right? For creators, whether you're a musician, visual artist, a painter, a movie maker, there's going to be all, gaming, game maker. There's going to be all kinds of different marketplaces where you're going to be able to buy NFTs, things in limited quantities. So this is all important infrastructure. So it's, even though we're in the bubble phase, it's kind of like an important bubble phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. I mean, I think what we're creating is protocols right now. I mean, I come from a creative side, and what we talk about is a creative protocol. Like, we need to have this infrastructure so these things aren't being built in other bubbles. I work very closely with Rensa Games. I'm an advisor with them, and they have a basically Steam platform marketplace. There's royalty contracts built into it, and they're already in their alpha. It's out there. The goal is basically to have people be able to launch their own assets that people can buy, and the idea being that this could be a marketplace that's powered by, and then giving other people that front end. And we're talking to different people about that, as that front end being different strategies there.
But see, the thing that people, and this is what's going to be kind of hardest with the bubble bursting, is as more people realize just how long it takes for things to actually happen. Because a lot of folks are like, oh, the metaverse is around the corner, or, oh, NFTs really being used is just around the corner. Then they start to get to the painful reality, and then a lot of the value will evaporate. So keep in mind that NFTs for the most part are not used in games. I've done a full hour lecture on this to the Hyperledger community. It's available online. Happy to talk with folks, but there are countless problems. NFTs, being frank, are a early technology that was repurposed mostly by VCs initially and promoted to a larger community that are still, they do about 10% of what they need to do. It's a receipt with a pointer. I'm simplifying drastically, but it doesn't have asset management or hosting. It doesn't do certification. Like, I could go through a list. There are all these things that it needs to actually be useful. In games, we can do 10x what an NFT does, except put it on the blockchain. We can do much more. We have more complexity. Like, I've sat down and talked with blockchain game publishers and gone like, that's great. Show me the nesting. I want to build a complex thing. Can I have a thing holding a thing, holding a thing, holding a thing? And they go, oh yeah, no, you can't. NFTs are an early idea, but in terms of technology, we need to not treat things like a religion. If you can't break it and put it back together, if you can't throw it out and make a better thing, then you have religion. And I'm not interested in religion in the context of my technology and science. If any abbreviation, if any term cannot go away and be replaced by something better, then you're worshiping at an idol. And I don't care what it is, nothing is permanent. General ideas are permanent, like, can we have an interactive thing? But we don't go, oh, we always have to have NFTs. No, we don't. Anything can come, anything can go. In games, we throw shit out all the time. But what you've got to remember right now, and going back to this notion of the bubble bursting, is that people are going like, well, NFTs and this and that. Right now, there are venture capital investors that are putting money in, and they're pulling in some amount of other investors around them, and then retail speculative investors into what are effectively empty spaces. And everyone's hoping that populations are coming because some initial money was made, and they want to see that happen, and they want to see it grow because it's exciting when it does. But you sit down and you look at Polygon Sandbox, and they're supposedly a unicorn, and they had $500 million in corporate investment sales into their land last year, and they get 1,000 monthly active users. Like, they're tiny. There are more people in Second Life than in all of these decentralized web worlds put together, and Second Life is tiny compared to any competent game. This is a really tiny community, and people don't realize it because of how much money is being put in. But money doesn't make gamers come. It doesn't make spectators or users or casuals come. They look at it for a while and then they go back to their life. So there's a lot of money. Andreessen Horowitz put $1 billion a year for the last 3 years into Web3 startups, but that doesn't mean that people come. And we're going to have to deal with the notion that it might happen, but it takes 10 or 20 years. You look at the internet growing from 2000 to 2020, and that's the same sort of thing that has to happen. You don't go, oh, we get 1 million users tomorrow or next year. You go, no, we're going to be fucking tiny for ages, and it's okay. But you either believe in that and you believe in the growth, or you go away. But you don't go, we'll just be huge, because that doesn't happen.
Sean, you wanted to ask a question. I saw your hand raised.
No, I just feel we kind of have gone away from the topic of this whole session, Raphael.
I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to bring it back, but he was like, what he was saying was just so like, it was hard because he's speaking such truth. And I think if you saw that,
I don't particularly agree with everything that's said. There's a lot of valid points there. I feel Metaverse and how collectors and artists responding to the NFTs, I think it's here to stay. I do agree that even Google searches now, engine shows that searches for NFTs has gone down. But I feel Metaverse provides a lot of opportunities for the creative minds. Musicians like Travis Scott already proven that.
Usually lead and what's interesting is that there's a company, you guys know it as the Cash App. Everybody knows the Cash App. Mm-hmm. They were formerly called Square, which powers all kinds of small businesses that you go to every single day at your local coffee shop. They recently changed their name to Block, which means that they're going to be pioneers of the blockchain. And they also acquired Tidal. So they have real money. They have lasting power, and they're throwing down for musicians right now. So to enable musicians, so imagine when a stream happens on Tidal, a micropayment immediately comes via crypto to that musician's account for that stream, and that's happening, be happening, hundreds of or thousands of times per day. Musicians are gonna love this. This is gonna be amazing, and they have the technology to also deliver on an NFT marketplace. So they're kind of like a sleeping giant. There are others, right, with Epic Games just acquiring Bandcamp. Epic Games is a real company with real money. And music is going to be everywhere in the metaverse, listened to all the time. It's like living in a movie. You're going to need a soundtrack 100% of the time. You're in the epic universe, right? So
yeah, I mean, I love what, I'm sure you guys are aware of Pixel Nicks, and I've been talking with those folks over there, Inder and James and those guys, and I love what they're doing, and I think to your point, I think it comes back to fandom. I think, and I say that in a very general sort of way, whether you're a fan of a comic book or you're a fan of a musician or you're a fan of an idea, whether it's size, things like that. I mean, to your point, Raphael, I do agree with the fact that religion, if you can't have metrics and you're just believing in something blindly, there does become a point where it becomes faith. But I think we do have to have a sense of faith. I mean, I have to say, over the past 2 weeks, as soon as I started focusing on exactly what I really was wanting and how I was seeing these things come together, phone calls just started happening that really started to make sense. I don't know if you guys know Tony Parisi, but Tony's coming into our, sphere of working together. And Tony comes from Unity, and, he's an OG Metaverse guy, and, similar, I'm sure, with you, Raphael. And I think, the conversations we're having and these opportunities, there's a lot of really cool stuff. I mean, I just saw, I've been talking with Palm Studios. I love those guys over there and gals, Matt is great. And they just announced that they're doing a really cool opportunity for Archie fans, where Archie fans get to be a part of the contributing fandom. And I think these, and I'll call them experiments, whatever we want to call them. But I think these are really cool experiences and experiments that are going to become the metaverse. That, as I was talking to Tony yesterday, and his thing was, we're building it as we go. Like all these NFTs and all these things we go along the way that we're collecting, it's going to become something that becomes a digital ontology. We're going to have meaning to who we are and who we create in this sort of digital overlay to what has meaning to us. I mean, I look at my own self, and I always try to connect myself to like what I see in a vision. And I go, when I was 11 years old, I wanted to make comic books. Like that was my dream. I wanted to make Marvel comics. Me and my best friend, we would sit and we draw and we'd come up with all our crazy stuff. And, cut to 30 years later, I'm getting to write Marvel comics. It was a very roundabout way I got here. I just kind of followed the journey as it took me. But I got to be in a fandom that I love, that set me on my creative journey. I mean, that really was what it was the X-Men in 1991 that set me on my path to where I am right now. And that's what I believe NFTs have the power. There is some sort of connective digital ontology, creative, power that you have that is allowing you to verify your own fandom and allowing you to potentially participate in that fandom and have meaningful participation in that fandom. And, for whatever it's worth, like the metaverse, we can call it whatever we want, but at the end of the day, it's about communities coming together through technology. I mean, this is the metaverse for all intents and purposes. We're all connecting, we're creating, we're talking, but it's not really. I mean, it's not an open metaverse. I mean, we're connecting and creating.
Okay, well, Raphael is coming from the gaming industry. Our founders got the background in the gaming as well. What is the metaverse for you guys? May I just say my opinion on it? And a lot of people in this room, the artists, the collectors that are in this room, they know me. I've always said that. I don't think metaverse is a gaming platform. And I don't think it's just about collectibles. I think metaverse, and this is the mission of of Connect.Club, is how people interact with the content and how they interact with their communities and with their peers. And we feel it's quite disruptive. You're mentioning a lot of big names here. Sandbox. Like I don't know, other names that have been mentioned. But on this very platform, which is essentially a social networking platform, we have an interface that actually replicates look and feel of a gallery. And we've seen time and time again, when the artists told their story right and they build that emotional connections, they actually sold the NFTs on this very platform. We have the case study sitting in this very room. I just personally feel Metaverse provides an amazing opportunity for music artists, for musicians, for contemporary fine artists, for the fashion, for the filming industry, as an additional revenue stream. Will musicians put all the eggs in one basket and just completely abandon record labels and streaming platforms? No, I don't think so. Will fashion brand owners gonna have to follow this trend of the Gen Z and provide a different experience to the audiences? I think absolutely. We've already seen it with Gucci's, with all the big names. So coming back to the topic of these discussions, I feel Metaverse provides a vast opportunities for creative minds. I don't know, Raphael, what's your
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Raphael, I would love you to weigh in on this one because it
Sure.
speaks just a level of language.
Yeah. So I think that part of the problem here is that the term metaverse comes out of Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. It was an evolution of William Gibson's cyberspace term from Neuromancer 10 years prior. And the game industry, the hardware device manufacturers, and the semiconductor folks, we all started using this idea because we knew that the internet and the web at that point in the 90s was going to be a largely 2D, turn-based, asynchronous interface for text and images and links, and that it would take a while to get to a thing that could be a 3D successor to the internet. So a 3D successor to the internet is the working definition for the metaverse. And If you want to use metaverse to mean the community that helps to get to that, sure. But if you say that the internet is the metaverse, then it kind of loses all meaning. I mean, I literally had someone who's over in Altspace go, oh, we got the metaverse last year. I was like, okay, great. What made it the metaverse? We wished it to be. Okay, that doesn't help me. How do you define it? It's whatever we want it to be. Okay, at that point, if terms mean anything, then they mean nothing. And so I think that metaverse, again, bringing it back to XR and extended reality, it can mean the container term for the experiments and exemplars, the precursors and paragons, the things that we're trying to do to understand what the metaverse should be. But the metaverse is intended to be a 3D successor to the internet, where there is a sense of presence, where you go in and you can be. And we don't have that now, and it's a long ways away, and that's okay. But what we do have right now is more people going online than ever before. If we call that the metaverse, or if some people call that the metaverse, the rest of us will still keep working towards the metaverse that we know that we can build. But it's good to have people go online. It's good to have people build community and to figure out what we're trying to do now, because we accelerated the online process from the pandemic, but we're not going back to what we had before. And that's really important. More people are understanding that using the internet in different ways, beyond email, beyond just, oh, I did a Google search on my phone, people are realizing that there are all these other things that they can do. So we need a couple of decades of wandering around in the woods and trying to figure out what's useful. I think it's useful to talk about a metaverse community as an aspirational thing to go towards the vision of what we want to have. But at the same time, we also have to recognize, like, that community is smaller than people realize. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't have faith. It doesn't mean that you can't be excited. But in VR, we did this where we built it up to be bigger and faster than it actually was, especially in the 2012 to about 2017 period. For about 5 years, we're like, it's going to be huge by 2018, and then it wasn't. And if you build it up too fast, too soon, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. It's okay to go, we'll get there, but also to be realistic and go, it's going to take a while. Because that metaverse community should be able to be starting small. And it doesn't mean that it's bad to start small. It just means that it takes time to grow. So like,
I can definitely, musician, like, and all the musicians I talk to, like, we're super excited, you know, about the opportunities, you know, whether you call it metaverse and NFTs, Web3, like, just the fact that, like, the streaming era killed us, I'll be honest. Like, the streaming era killed musicians. And obviously it doesn't kill the music industry. It's just that we now have to survive on a lot less, because we're getting pennies on the dollar from what we used to get as a download. And then now it takes, you know, millions of streams to make up the revenue that we, you know, that we would have normally gotten. And now live events are the key thing for musicians. But so NFTs, what's really amazing with NFTs is that they bring the power back to, at least for musicians, they bring the power back. Like, we can create rarity, just like the Wu-Tang Clan album, where they did a one-shot vinyl, right? And got millions for it. And like, that put NFTs for musicians, puts the power of that into the hand of every musician again, which we've been dying for. so I'm like super excited about what you know, these different technologies are going to bring for music marketplaces. And it allows musicians to also be visual artists too. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
That's awesome. And I've seen that happen several times in my community. I have several friends who were musicians, and then they brought out their artistic in them, and it was just amazing to see that transition and the excitement behind it. But yes, please, that's great.
Well, I think, I think that's a really great point, about musicians transitioning into other medium and other
Mhm.
formats and other ways to tell stories. I mean, I and, working with Will I Am, and then, Taboo and I, it's really cool being able to translate music and storytelling back and forth, and how we work as a creative duo. I'm also a musician as well. I've been playing bass since I was 13. I don't consider
There you
myself
go.
a professional, but it's been fun
Yeah.
because I set up a jam here, in LA. We've got a residency over at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset next to the Roxy. I'm actually directing a music documentary right now about the very first time hip hop came to the Sunset Strip, at a club called Ballistics. So, I mean, music has always been such a big part of my life. And with someone like Taboo, it's always that translation. Like, Tab comes from the music side, and we look at it like jazz or ping pong sessions where we riff on ideas and we throw it back and forth. And my background obviously being on the writing side, and being in film and television, and the creative writing. But I understand music. And I think a big part of it all comes down to communication. I think, to your point, Raphael, we're talking about language. My uncle is a linguist. I mean, my last name is Jackendoff. I don't know if you know Dr. Ray Jackendoff, linguistics. I didn't know much about linguistics until I started studying philosophy over the past year and going, oh man, that's what my uncle does. And those are his books. But I think language, and going to Snow Crash. I mean, Snow Crash was all about language, and about linguistics, and about communication, and about philosophy, and about religion, and all of these things that converge. And music is such a beautiful part to it because it's a language that speaks around the world. And I remember having a jam in my living room, and there was a couple cats that had come into town. They were in from China, actually, and we all just jammed. Nobody spoke. We didn't need to speak any other language than music. And I think, to your point, that's a beautiful thing where we can create music. I love what Inder and the Pixelnix folks and Deadmau5, what they're doing. I think there's a really cool opportunity there. One of the projects we're developing is, has gaming elements. We're exploring it. We're partnering up with Polygon on it, and it's got a music component to it. And, and again, who knows what these are going to be. We just have to curb our expectations and enthusiasm and just be explorers and have fun. And if there's a lot of money out there, we might as well use it to do cool shit. Like, and just know that, like, that's what we're doing.
But in that, and and again, this is the game perspective. Gaming is currently the largest entertainment industry in the world. What we know is that we have to protect and understand and respect our users. Yes, you can make money, but the other side of it is making sure that you do not exploit your users, that your user base, your players, whatever you want to call them, your audience, that there can be a financial transaction, but part of where NFTs have gone a little bit off the rails in the last little while is a notion that that you can make, that it's printing money. Money always comes from somewhere. And the important thing is to demonstrate value before you ask for money, not afterwards.
100%.
And this is, I bring this up because there's a NFT community that's come into games, and what they are doing for the most part is veering into exploitation. And there's some of us that are trying to pull them out of that, because it makes a bad name for the rest of folks who don't necessarily want to do that. But you have to start with a notion of, can you create a user-centric experience? Can the people that you're selling to be part of your community, not just the people that you're making money for?
I mean, to your
Sean,
point,
would you like
we need to talk
Sean,
about story. Oh, sorry. I mean,
go ahead, Sean had a stand up. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a couple of questions for Raphael. I'm actually glad that you're here.
Yeah.
You know, we're having a sort of an Oxford-style debate, isn't it? There's few of us are pro, you kind of trying to bring a different reality to it. By the way, I tried to connect with you, so if you tap on my avatar, next to my avatar, there is a connect button as well. Let's connect. I really appreciate you being here. But I've got like a quick question to you. Do you own any NFTs?
No, I don't currently.
Okay. But I assume you've bought some kind of a art. There are some, I don't know, art in your house, you know, like,
Yeah,
I don't know, did you
yeah,
buy? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I come from a family that has been involved in music and the arts for a long time. I've always supported music and the arts, um, but keep in mind that if I want to buy art, I do buy art and reasonably regularly, and I support artists. Um, but the notion of do I have a receipt for a thing that may or may not have a definition of that art that I supposedly may have bought, that's tricky. Um, what I'd like to see with NFTs is, can it have more of a definition of the thing that it is supposed to be transacting in it?
Well, I mean, look,
and it doesn't
So,
mean it necessarily has to have a digital twin, but it needs to have a bit of definition. It may also need an understanding of some amount of IP or trademark, name, image, likeness,
I agree.
some legal and financial definition in there, and not just a receipt. I need more than that.
But
100%.
actually, what's happening right now on your side of the pond, on our side of the pond, in fact, India recently introduced already 30% tax on any crypto profits. So we all going to have these regulations very, very soon, maybe within this year.
Right, but I'm not talking about the financial. I'm actually saying that.
No,
that,
I'm
like,
talking about the IP protection. You know, the infringements and all that stuff. It has happened, and
yeah,
it probably will.
no. So think of it more like this: if there's a painting, and you have an NFT connected to that painting, let's think of it this way. This is an example I've used previously. You have a physical painting, and then you have an NFT, and you say this NFT verifies this physical painting. If I take this painting away for 3 months and then I bring it back to you and I say it's the same painting, you don't have a way in the NFT to verify that that painting has not been counterfeited, replaced, changed, modified, altered, damaged, functionally or aesthetically done something to it. What I'm saying is that if an NFT is connected to a thing, it needs to have more of a definition in the NFT of that thing without exploding itself. It needs to not just be a receipt. I'm talking actively with the folks at Hyperledger about this. I'm not against NFTs. I want to make the standard better because it's too simple in my view right now. I like where it can go. I don't like where it is now because it needs to be better.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are aware of that, and that infrastructure will be built, and that's why we need VC money.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think, to your point, sorry, I was just going to say, from the point of IP, this is something I'm dealing with actually in the moment right now, because I'm a founder of an NFT project. It is a creative project driven by story and artwork called Chihuahuas. We're a small but little mighty community. But the reality is, and this is one of the big issues, where does creative begin and tech end, and where does tech begin and creative end? We're not a game. We're building fun with the community. They're creating storylines. We're putting out webtoons. We're doing animations. I mean, technically, we could have done this all without NFTs. But the fact was that NFTs allowed a gated opportunity into a creative community. And being that you could join a guy who writes Marvel comics and an artist who does cool stuff with Steve Aoki, and hey, you own one of these characters and you do cool stuff, and we all get to play together in our Discord. And that to me is like where the value add is. It's a human value component. Like, if we weren't in our Discord, if we weren't creating cool artwork with them, and like, it's an emotion. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And I think right now we're talking about NFTs more on an emotional side. And I agree with you 100%, Raphael, when it comes to like the physical component. And I'm talking, it comes to comic books or sideshow or collectibles, a digital, right? We're building a statue right now, a physical statue of an NFT that we've also created. with Sidewatch, one of the best, you know, if not the top collectible company in the world. And it's going to look incredible. And our goal is, you know, and again, it's still a bit of an experiment to see how it all works. But, you know, our goal is to create that community around this idea, this IP that we've built. And, you know, when it comes to IP, I look at it in a way as we're not giving away our IP. I look at it as a centralized, decentralized system. Like, you're buying into our world. We're the creators. We own the IP of this storyline of Chihuahuas. We're not doing what Bored Apes did and said, oh, you all get commercial rights. You can do whatever the hell you want with it and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, you got to live in our world and we can build it together. But this is where the Chihuahuas create and build together. This is the world we're building together, but we're the vision behind it. We're the artists, we're the creatives, we're the storytellers, and we'll bring in other people. Taboo, I brought him in as a voice, as Rasputin. You know, my friend Lena Headey is Ninja Nina. You know, and it's again, it's about having fun and experimenting, you know, and the people that think that they're gonna make $1 million off of it have all left our community. Our community now is people that are like, we love this. We're having a great time. We care about what you guys are doing. So it goes back to that kind of emotional feeling of I play games. I play video games. I play role-playing games. I DM Dungeons and Dragons. Why do I care about a paper and pencil character that we've created in our minds? It's because the emotional experience that I've had with that character that I ran for 1.5 years, where I DM'd this world that I built for 1.5 years, or whatever it is. I think right now we're kind of creating digital ontologies that sort of connect to it. And the why of that has meaning. So right now we're searching for meaning. And I think if NFTs are a way to connect people together in communities they care about to get meaning, then that's cool. Like, that's what I'm for.
Pew, 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 pew. As I said, pew, 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 pew. That was epic. But Raphael, man, I want to give you some NFTs. They're all skins for crypto voxels, and I want to invite you to one of our parties and get down and dance with me, and then maybe you'll see the value, because we throw killer parties in Web3. Come on.
I'll invite you into Roblox.
So much
No, don't go to the Roblox. You've heard what happened in the UK with the Roblox.
This has been epic, but guess what? I didn't, like, you guys answered all my questions. Like, I was supposed to ask you all these questions, and I was like, oh my God, we answered it. But I had so many, because I had so much fun researching you guys. And I was like, oh my God, these are just so, you are incredible. But we're going to open this up. So I'm sure that there are, because look at this. Look at all these beautiful people that came out. And I'm going to open this up for our friends in the audience. Please come to the stage and ask our epic guests the questions, okay? Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Ooh, Sophia. All right.
Hi, everybody. And before we start with the question, we want to remind everybody that we give away free NFT tokens, Connect.Club NFT tokens, for active people in the audience. So ask questions, you know, voice your opinion. We love you. We love you have an opinion, and we just want to hear you. So that's why we give away tokens. So to do that, you have to connect your wallet, and we'll get back to you.
And it's in the Discord, correct, Chrissy? It's
yeah,
in the,
and
like,
if
you need to go to the
you
Discord.
get the token, then you'll get access to your private Discord channel and be like a VIP NFT holder.
The speakers get the NFTs as well, huh?
Oh my God, look at Raphael. You get an
I know,
NFT. You get an
I'm
NFT.
looking.
And then you'll say, yeah, I got an NFT. Woo!
We're gonna convert
you.
Raphael
We're
today.
converting you. All right. And go ahead. Who do we have here? Daryl, welcome.
Hey guys, I'm just gonna try to make it quick. So I guess it's kind of a debate over here over NFTs, but I just wanted to bring a point that there is a university in Rome that is having an issues with degrees being falsificated, diplomas being fake. So they're now using NFTs to write the degrees to the blockchain, to write those diplomas to the blockchain in order to validate them and, you know, make sure that they're not being falsified. So what about that use of NFTs, for example?
Yeah, actually, there was a really amazing article in the Wall Street Journal recently about hospitals are planning on using NFTs for like ID badges and things like that. So there's going to be all kinds of incredible usage scenarios. Very, very important. Yeah, on just so many levels. And as a musician, I can speak to like the importance of, you know, if a track that, you know, I create or one of my artists creates, like us to be able to have the tools that the major labels do today. Like if I play a 1/10 of a second of a Michael Jackson song on YouTube, right, my whole channel is demonetized or whatever. And so major labels have tools that we as individual creators don't have today. And so what's going to be nice about the blockchain and NFTs is if, you know, I issue a song and say, hey, I want this to be used by video creators and used on YouTube channels and things like that, I'm going to be able to track it and know who's using it, and get paid immediately when that's streamed. That's going to be amazing, revolutionary, so essential. So it's going to replace the copyright office. We don't need it anymore. Just ignore it. It's irrelevant. Yeah. So just, again, more plumbing has to be built, but we're going to get there.
So I'll give kind of a counterexample. I was down in Los Angeles. I'm in San Francisco. I was down in Los Angeles back in February, and I was working with the fine folks at 3D Scan LA. They are one of several fantastic photogrammetry places. They're a mom and pop shop. It's literally one run by a husband and wife who are a great group. And while we're doing photogrammetry of a particular artist, we're chatting about other things, and he's telling me about how he's trying to put together an NFT store, and this was this dates it. It was you know, before the Russia-Ukraine war, and he's trying to work with Russian programmers who were problematic, but he's describing to me how every photogrammetry studio is experiencing the same problem, which is that they do custom work with groups like ours and others. And, you know, like he started up doing work for Marvel, you know, photogrammetry scans of actors that could then be put into film or into games or into advertisements or whatever. They also do some amount of work with, where they bring in LA models and aspiring actors, you know, young folks, and they pay them a nominal amount. And they do scans so that they have something to put into their web store. And the idea is that you can use these scans so you have something basic to work with, especially for students. You know, it's like a learning thing. You go, hey, I can pay, you know, $30 and I get a nice scan, and you don't get a commercial license. You just get an asset to use. Because if you're doing what we're doing, like putting them into a virtual concert, then you're supposed to be paying more. You're supposed to be paying for what you're using. Now in this, what he's describing is that people are going into his store and into every photogrammetry store like this, taking these assets of real people in Los Angeles and minting them without any permission, and then selling them as NFTs. So you have people who are doing a business and they put out a learning version, and because there's no certification and there's no control and anyone can do anything, when you have anarchy, someone does everything. And so what he's describing is, I don't know how to get these taken down, and people are making money off of my work and I don't get a piece of it. Never mind the fact that I don't have control over it, but his biggest problem is not, hey, he doesn't get a piece of it. It's, these are scans that he did of real people in Los Angeles where he told them, I'm putting this up on the store, and if your thing gets selected for commercial use, we will go back and we'll get a different price and I will protect you. And then what he finds is that anyone can go and grab these assets and put them up on the blockchain, and his agreements with his models mean nothing, because there is no certification and there's no protection, and it's hard to take things down. And what he was mostly told is, what you should just do is put up your own version and price it lower and see if you can outsell the fake version.
I think we should have had. I think we should have had a different title for this session: Metaverse Opportunities and Threats for the Creative
But you know,
World.
it was amazing. It was really good. This was a really good talk, though, actually. Hey, Sophia, my beautiful friend, do you have a question for these awesome gentlemen?
I actually have a question for Raphael, and it's regarding like alt space and VR. I know when they were building this type of technology, it was built from a man's perspective, which I recently just found out. So like women get a lot of more motion sickness when using VR. And they didn't take that into consideration when it was developing. They were building it from a man's perspective. So is there any roadmap to like remove the motion sickness that we all not everyone experiences, but people do experience?
Right. So VR wasn't built from a man's perspective. VR has been around since 1959. It's an evolving technology that men and women across decades have been involved in. Now, what you're speaking to is what's sometimes called simulator sickness, and it is a thing that we've actually been able to study more in the past 10 years, but it is something that hits people of any gender and ethnicity and race. Like, it's not tied to, it comes down to whether your inner ear can reconcile that you see things moving and can it adjust to the fact that you know, like effectively you know you're not moving, but you see and you think that you should be moving because a screen is telling you you should be moving. And there's work that's being done on this. Samsung is actually doing work on ear implants. But yeah, it's not a gender thing. It does tend to hit women more statistically in slightly larger numbers, but it's all over the place. And it's really like, it's again, one of a ton of steps going towards extended reality that we need to be able to fix, because some people like myself can go like, I can play shooters and I can play VR and I can deal with fast movement. And then I can have a co-founder who's male who gets violently sick. And yeah, it's not anything specific to individual headsets. It's more, we're trying to understand how to bridge between the human experience and the digital.
Hull University in the UK have like their PhD students. They found out that like women are more likely to get sick, but that could mean that maybe women are more likely to report their sickness than guys. I don't know, but yeah, because they asked me if I wanted to go and feel sick, basically, like being tested on me. I was like, no thanks.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, like it's similar to, let's say, like motion sickness. So think of like if you're on a ferry and that ferry encounters heavy water, like heavy waves. You will statistically find that women might experience motion sickness more frequently, but it's not like 100% thing. Like you can't say like, oh, because someone is a woman, they're going to experience the sickness. It comes down to intricacies of biology that we're still trying to understand. There's a lot of like AR and VR and MR and XR stuff that we literally just have the right tools to even consistently simulate to be able to find solutions for. And this is kind of part of why we need like the next 20 to 30 years to get to a metaverse, because we need time to solve this stuff.
Please no. Well, thank you, Sophia. And we have a few more people up here. Indy, are you here? And then Bobby. Indy, did you have a question?
I believe this gentleman right here was first.
Sean? Okay, I'm so sorry. Is it awesome, okay. Sean? Go ahead, awesome, Sean.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so to touch on a few points here, there's a company ran by Rosie Haft I believe in Germany, and they have Luminora. I'll have to double check, but Rosie's company, they're addressing that because it's VR built by a lady, and so I'm pretty sure they've addressed that. And then secondly, there's a company called BitsCrunch, and BitsCrunch is ran by my buddy VJ, and they have actually I met them at a family office event a few months ago. And what they do is they prevent anybody, it's basically they copyright NFTs. So they copyright them, and then they have an AI that once you sign up with them, it would, and like say somebody tries to upload a fake to OpenSea, for example, then what it does is it alerts OpenSea that, hey, this is a fake, and to remove it. So, so a lot of these things like already exist. I guess you just kind of got to know where to look. But that's kind of what I wanted to say, because I've you guys were talking about, hey, I don't know if this is up yet, and I don't know if this is working, and I'm like, well, no, we already have a solution. I know the BitsCrunch has been working on this for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and then the VR thing, I know the Rosie has been, they've won like every award under the sun that they apply for. So, I mean, let me double check her company, but I think it's Luminora. Let me look over here. Rosie, what's your company called? Yeah, and they're based out in Germany. I found it really interesting when we were talking about this stuff. And you guys were talking about this stuff. That's pretty much all I got right now.
Well, thank you so much, awesome Sean. How about a few more questions, and then everybody's going to get back. But I see you, Hugh Bell. We're going to go.
Just a really quick thing to the person who'd asked about the sickness. Samsung actually has a set of headphones called N-Trim 4D, which are kind of a first attempt at addressing simulator sickness. So, it's small scale, but there is a Samsung solution, and others will, people will keep working on these things.
Okay, hi everybody. My question is for Raphael, and I guess you're from the gaming industry. You've been really articulate, and I came tonight to listen to a room about opportunities for the creative world. Can I ask you, A, if you have anything good to say about NFTs in the metaverse, and B, would you like to articulate it to the room?
Sure. So I think that blockchain will eventually be needed to bridge between different cloud worlds. I think that, and this isn't like walled garden versus non-walled garden, but I think that we will start to build larger structures, and we will need ways to go between them. And we need to better understand how we build identity, and then how we connect the pieces of identity to allow you to take it from one place to another. That there is a notion that's in the work of William Gibson and Neil Stephenson and others of being able to move between interoperable spaces. In the game industry, we need about 10 to 20 years to build engines. Like, it would be 10 years if everyone started now, and everyone's not starting now. It'll probably be 15 to 20 years before we can build interoperable engines consistently. But as we build bigger spaces and worlds and platforms, we will need ways to go between them, and we will need blockchain to start to figure out iterations of technology that might have come, NFTs, loosely speaking, are things that started back in 2012. We need to keep iterating on that thing so that by the time that we're ready to build larger platforms, we can have ways of going between them and taking things between them. So experiments in NFTs are a good thing. The main thing is to hold on to, not can we make money off of other people, but can we do experiments? Can we be respectful? Can we empower artists? In the game industry, the hardest thing, frankly, consistently, is wonderfully creative people who are struggling to raise money for their creativity. This is a common theme in lots of industries. Can you find ways to connect into community respectfully? Can you raise money without going, here, there's virtual land and we don't really know what the game is. Explain the thing, show people what you're doing, show them the work that you're doing. That's not the NFT, but maybe the NFT or the DAO or other things or evolutions from them can help to better set up crowdfunding, because we will always have either young artists coming in or experienced artists coming out of big companies and we need better ways to fund artists.
Right.
That is my passion.
And we are in Web3 terms, we are in 1995 or 96. When I set up my Web1 business, we made really interesting like applications and software. And in Web3, we're not in 2022, we're in 1995 or 96. So everybody in this room is charting that future. Everybody in this room is creative, and everybody in here is grinding to try and make this future that you're saying is like 10 or 20 years away. But it doesn't have to be. Like, that's an opinion. There's whole companies springing up around the world which are creating this like infrastructure that other people can interoperate with and can compose upon it. And like, I think you ought to give everybody in this room a break. You know,
so,
everybody's
Sophia,
here because they love it.
Take Raphael and show him a good time. I think it's time to like change his brain.
Can I?
Yes.
I want to speak to something about, you know, being. I mean, look, I've been working this Hollywood game for 20 years. It's exhausting. I'm sure the gaming game is just as exhausting. You go out, you pitch, you try to get your idea sold, you try to raise money, you try to get into the right rooms. I mean, I've pitched Disney more times than I can count. Every time, wonderful room. Oh, but it's just not what we're looking for right now, you know, or we love it, but hey, if you had only come in last week, you know, or we're only developing internally. And, you know, Raphael, you really hit on a point, because it's such a passion of mine. It's been a passion of mine, being a community builder in real life, never about like, you know, I never looked at the digital side. For me, I like that for face to face. I like throwing parties. I would do them at Titmouse Animation Studios over in Hollywood. And it was incredible. And I loved watching people connect, create. You know, I saw one of my dear friends who, at the time when I started the party, he was an assistant. Now he's the showrunner and executive producer of The Witcher, and he's doing the Final Fantasy series. And he came from gaming as a journalist and found my community and was like, man, he's like, I would have left Hollywood if it hadn't been for this camaraderie and connectivity. And for me, it was like, man, if only I could have had funding for that community where I could have been able to say, man, you guys got great ideas. You know, this is cool. Like, how do we build together? You have a really cool thing. Let's build that together. And you know, I really had this sort of, I guess you could call it an aha moment last week where, you know, I just realized how much time is spent. I've been waiting 3 years of development, and we developed, but 3 years to network, moving a project, and this is the normal trajectory. And we have been there in this, and we are the lucky ones. We survived regime shifts. We've survived AT&T buying it, then selling it. We have stuck the course, and we're like so close, so close it feels, but we still don't even know. And it's that time of like going, man, you know, I know that we want to do this with Warner. It's a perfect Cartoon Network project. It has all the trappings of what we want to say to the world. But that frustration as creatives, as artists, as musicians, as storytellers, you know, it is, how do we find each other? How do we build with each other? And how do we ultimately get the money to be able to build it in ways that have distribution that is, you know, makes sense? That 1,000 fandom. If we can build that 1,000 fandom to create a sustainable community where the creatives are able to, you know, actually eat and pay their rent and, you know, take their significant others out on dates and stuff like that. The real stuff, the real world. I mean, I got an 11-year-old kid, you know, it's like, this is the stuff that is real life, not, you know, this fantasy world that, you know, we would love to bury our heads in and say everything is wonderful and magical, but it's the creatives that are driving it.
And you're hitting on something there, which is the struggle that people go through, where they are experienced creatives, they know how to do a thing, and they're just trying to get the money to build that thing. And this is like, this is literally one of the things that I took to the Hyperledger group at the end, which is one of the most immediately useful things that blockchain, not NFTs, blockchain can try to figure out, and distributed ledger can try to figure out, is slightly better and safer structures than DAOs for raising money. Like a DAO can have a hostile takeover. If you're setting up a thing, you don't want to have a hostile takeover. That's because it's a little too Wild West. There are really good ideas there, but they need to be refined, because you go, hey, we want to do this animation thing or this creative project of any type, and like right now, an LLC is still a safer thing to do, but a DAO is sexier. We need something sort of in between where we can go, this catches the attention, it allows people to raise money, they can build a creative thing, they can grow this thing, and we need a thing that's kind of a little bit like Kickstarter, a little bit beyond, where people can say they will get a piece of this thing, but like don't just like tell them, hey, you're going to get this virtual asset that might grow, and tell them they'll get a piece of the revenue or the IP that you keep control, and you get to work and build that thing, but they get to have community participation. Like, I mean, we're on the cusp of something, and it's close.
It's a little dangerous, though. I mean, Raphael, I mean, I know with securities and things like that, making those offerings, we really can't, as creatives, make those sorts of offerings. I mean, there is a company, Legion M, who I'm very close with. You know, Legion M is doing it. They have jumped through all the hoops. They have all, and they're not a blockchain company. And I've been talking to them about,
Fig is doing this also. And they literally have to separate their investment from the crowdfunding for exactly the reasons you're talking about.
Right. And I think, you know, I mean, look, we did a Kickstarter back in 2012 in the very beginning. It's a very sexy Kickstarter because, you know, we brought all the Hollywood, marched out, you know, had all the Hollywood names and everything. And we raised like 190,000. And it was one of the hardest jobs I ever had, was just staying on top of the marketing and keeping everyone on, you know, making videos every day. And at the time I was going through a divorce. My life was like hell for those 40
And you can spend 6 hours, sorry, you can spend 6 months working for that Kickstarter to get to that 45 days. I know exactly what you're talking about. The amount of money that you raise in a Kickstarter is really tiny for the work that you put in.
No, absolutely.
Completely with you.
To your point, Raphael, we've been working this project for such a long time, and we finally took and pivoted to it being a Kickstarter. We had already done animations, we'd already done script, we'd all done this stuff. And you know, in some ways, I'm being reminded of, like, with NFT for our Chihuahuas to raise the money and runway to go and make all this stuff. It was like NFTs, right? So, you know, there's definitely a lot of parallels here. I think at the end of the day, what we're all saying is that we need to be able to create the things that we believe in and build with the communities we love and trust, and treat them respectfully at the end of the day, and be transparent with them so that we can all grow together in the best of ideas, and really let the cream rise to the top and not get caught in the frothiness of, you know, all the big work.
I just want to say quick thanks.
I just
want to say quick thanks to Brooke for being a wonderful host of this session. I want to thank Ben, Derek, Raphael. It's been a pleasure co-hosting with you. Unfortunately, I have to jump off.
Before you go, can we show Raphael what we do here? Can we all come up to the stage, and can we all put blue hearts around our guests, everybody?
I just wanted to say real quick, I just wanted to say real quick that we are really early in the metaverse, and it's only 30% of us that really know. So it's like, to have that tangible thought, something that's non-tangible, we still got a long ass way to go. And that's all I wanted to say.
Everybody get up to the stage. Sai, you there? Dr. Tachi, you there? Okay, ready? Everybody gonna drop it. Ready? On the count of 3, we're gonna give them our hearts. 1, 2, 3, hearts. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ready?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Great job, Brooke. That was excellent.
I connected with everybody who stayed this long. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I did have a question.
I had a whole list of questions, and like,
I'll hang on for another 10 minutes if anybody wants to chat.
Yeah. Can we just quickly say to Derek, we have Derek, we have on the 29th of May, we have a music festival here.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, it's an international music festival. We've got 6 stages, 6 different genres. Actually, more than 6 genres. Over 30 artists going to be here. Maybe we should engage you in as either as a musician or a person who's got expertise in organizing these things. Would you be up for it?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. Sure, absolutely.
Yay!
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. And on that note, once again, much love to everybody.
We
Great
love
to
you,
see you
Sean.
guys.
We appreciate you.
I'll see you all soon. Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you, my fellow
Bye.
speakers.
Bye.
Bye, Sean.